comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California. 420 studio, across the bay from San Francisco in Northern California. And it is Thanksgiving weekend, the year 2015. I have pulled an interview out of my archives from when I was doing a show called Sports from the Top of the Hill. It was a Cal State Hayward production, and one of my guests back then was a former American League shortstop in the 50s and 60s when I was growing up. He played with the A's and the Yankees. He was Joe DeMaestri, and you get to listen to him. It was 20 years ago. It was terrific, one of my best memories of doing sports interviews. He's a great guy. And I'm going to put it together with an interview I did yesterday by telephone with Art Ditmar, former pitcher for those same A's and the Yankees. Joe and Art were teammates way back then, and Art spoke to me yesterday on Thanksgiving, and I wanted to play this for you. A little baseball in the wintertime is what I love to do at Comfortably Zoned. And we're going to keep it going all winter until spring training and give you a little baseball at least once or twice a week. So here it is. Sit back, enjoy. Joe DeMaestri in 1995 and Art Ditmar this Thanksgiving. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. In our Diamond Magazine anthology of Major League Baseball throughout the 50s, 60s, early 70s, I have a player who played in the American League from the very, very early 1950s to the early 1960s. And he is one of my favorites from when I was a kid, and I'm honored to have him, Mr. Joe DeMaestri. Nice to see you, Joe.
Thank you, Ralph.
All right.
Nice to be here.
Well, nice to have you. You're a Northern California person. You grew up in Marin.
Right, right. Born in San Francisco.
Born in San Francisco.
But, moved over as a very young child and spent, over 60 years in Marin.
Wow. That's great. So you've seen it change from.
Definitely.
What was it like in the 50s and 60s in Marin?
Well, it was
as opposed to now with the new age folks.
A lot of people.
Okay.
You had you didn't have the sorts of shopping malls we have today, and which is probably pretty normal all around the country as these towns and cities grow. But we didn't have much organization as far as sports went.
Okay.
We didn't have
Little League.
Yes.
Little League.
We had our own pickup teams, and we would have the fathers that would organize.
Right.
Towns.
Did you have American Legion at that time?
We had American Legion. That's basically was our big deal.
Okay. Was that when you really knew that you were going to be successful? Were you?
Well, I didn't know I was going to be successful.
I mean, you played good ball. You were ahead of your peers at that point.
Well, I was well taught. My dad was a semi-pro player who was an excellent infielder at that time, and my uncles played, and so I was brought up, from about the age 4, I guess, to
learning how to play baseball.
Learning how to play the game.
Okay. What are some of the things they taught you that stuck with you throughout the years? And just fundamentally,
it was all fundamentals. Okay. Positioning and all that. And then as I went into high school, we had an excellent coach and we had an excellent baseball team, and we were champions my 4 years there, and that was kind of a springboard, I believe.
you're being scouted all this time.
Right. The Red Sox were scouting me.
Okay. And you signed initially with them, never...
Right. I signed with the Red Sox for $600, and which I thought made me a rich man.
Bring your own gloves.
You betcha. You betcha. But then I was farmed out and played 3 years in the C Leagues, and then went to Double-A, and was drafted in 1951.
By the White Sox?
By the White Sox.
Okay. Now, you came up the double play combination at that time for the White Sox?
Yeah, Nellie Fox and Chico Carrascal. Right.
You didn't get to play much?
No, I didn't. But it was, again, it's a learning experience.
Okay. This was early in Fox's career, too, wasn't it?
Yes. Nellie had come from Philadelphia, I believe.
Okay.
He was with the A's,
right.
And they, I guess, had traded for him that winter or before. I really don't recall now. But and certainly turned into a fine ball player.
Oh, absolutely. And it's amazing how when Carrascal retired, that Aparicio took his job.
Right.
Two fellow countrymen who were. I thought Aparicio was the best of his time.
Outstanding. I mean, I think he was a little head and shoulders
above everyone
else that I had seen anyway.
Right. Now, you watch baseball, you watch Ozzie Smith and what have you.
Yeah.
Different surface. We talked about that off camera.
I think the game has changed so much anyway, and the AstroTurf, I think, has played a big part in baseball in the last, I don't know how many years it's been in now, but I've never had the pleasure of playing on it. And the reason I say pleasure, I would like to have played on it. Just to see.
Right.
I didn't like it when I just walked on it. I was able to walk on it on a few ballparks, and I wasn't crazy about it. And then talking to some of my ex-teammates of many years ago who have had a chance to play on it, they didn't seem to like it.
Oh.
So I really couldn't say. I don't like watching the game played on it personally. I like the old ballparks with the grass and the dirt.
It was a different time.
That sure was.
Many different ways.
Right.
You read the paper, a utility infielder, I won't even mention any names, of contracts that are signed for like $400,000 or $500,000 a year. I mean, how do you feel? The money, the wealth notwithstanding.
Yeah. Well, it's as we say, it's a different game. And I guess the biggest change in sports and baseball has been the money. Right. Number one. I would have to say that would be the number one thing. I have no answer as to how I really feel. I know that in today's market, I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that are worth it, but I'm sure there's an awful lot out there that aren't worth it.
The intensity of the game has changed.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Because of the money, because of the guaranteed contracts.
Right. We didn't know what an agent was when we played.
Right. That never even entered into.
You really didn't need an agent to take care of your $5,000 or $6,000 salary either.
Right.
So it just changed so much, and I think I really think after I've been out of it now 34 years, I guess 33 years, but I think I'm finally getting used to all the salaries. At first I wasn't.
You're not taking it personally anymore.
No, I think at first a lot of us did. We've talked about it when I've gotten together in golf tournaments with my fellow teammates and fellows I've played against, and I think everybody kind of had that little feeling that it wasn't fair or it isn't fair. Right. But I think it's not going to quit. Evidently, we thought it would. We thought it would slow down, but I don't see anything in it.
Well, the owners may still turn it all over and bankrupt it.
Yeah.
It may happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well funded your pension program is, but
I'm pretty sure that's in pretty good shape. At least the reports that we get every year that we read upon. But when we started that pension, not myself personally, because it started in 46 or 47, I believe. But when I got involved in 1951, we put in $1, $2, one for medical, one for the pension.
Right.
And now, and I'm going back, it's probably been, I would say, 10 years or better that they don't put anything in it anymore. I mean, this is just funded now. It's totally funded through All-Star and World Series and whatever.
Well, they've cut you guys in for the big bucks, so they fought to do that.
We fought like heck for the big bucks, and we had good people fighting for us, and we were able to come up with some more money for us, so that helped a lot.
Okay. More about you in a personal nature. You moved from the White Sox to the St. Louis Browns.
Right.
You mentioned some of your teammates, an acquaintance of mine, Les Moss.
Right. Les was our catcher. We had Marty Marion, shortstop.
You played behind him.
Played behind Marty.
He later became your manager.
Right. That same year, Rogers Hornsby was our manager. Bill Beck was our owner, and we had Satchel Paige, one of the real greats of the game. And we had gone through, I guess, about a third of the season and not doing very well. And Bill Beck had flown to Boston, and we were up there playing the Red Sox, and he decided to make a managerial change. And
hurt everyone's feelings.
Oh, didn't hurt too many feelings.
So you guys had a party that night?
We did have I believe it or not, you're right. And we gave Bill Beck a trophy. For
making the move.
Making the move.
All right.
We heard about it on the elevator going down. That Marty had been made manager, and when he was made manager, I was given the job of playing shortstop.
Right. Who was the best manager you ever played for?
Well, I'll tell you, it's hard. They were all so different. I played for Eddie Juice at Philadelphia, Marty Marion at St. Louis, Lou Boudreau at Kansas City, who were all great teachers for me. Mm-hmm. But I think the best manager I ever played for was Paul Richards.
Boy, I've heard that.
I think Paul Richards was the smartest manager, and he was my first year. And this man just knew this game so well.
This was at St. Louis?
This was at Chicago.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he'd come from Seattle.
He went to Baltimore, and I know St. Louis.
Then he went on to Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I just felt that he was the all-around best.
You learned the most from him?
Well, I learned the most about the game from him. About playing the position, I learned more from the Juice, Eddie Juice, and Boudreau.
Okay. Did you ever think about coaching or going into it, or was that your disposition, or managing perhaps? Or?
I was kind of Yogi tried to get me when my last year with the Yankees when I was going to retire at the end of the '61 series, and Yogi was pushing me to manage the Richmond Ball Club. But my whole outlook at that time was that I was really tired of traveling around. Mm-hmm. The money wasn't the greatest. I had a family, 3 kids, and had a home out here. And my dad had started a business in 1958.
And you were ready to?
And I was basically ready. I really was. I'd had enough of the moving around.
I appreciate that. Trains.
Well, we did it all.
So, like, you'd leave for spring training. The kids are in school.
Right.
The wife, after school's out, would follow you wherever you were.
At times, she didn't. There was a couple of years she didn't come back at all. Okay. So that made it pretty tough too. But she would. So she would spend a couple of months with me, in the summer.
Did you have favorite cities along the way? You were in a bunch of them.
Yeah. Well, our favorite city by far was Kansas City, because the people were different there than the big cities. I'm sure you
were there 4 or 5 years.
5 years, right? And it made the living there was really nice. It was much easier on the family at that time. Like in Philadelphia, we lived in row houses.
Right.
And
this is suburban, real true suburban.
Yeah. And when we lived in Ridgewood, New Jersey, when I was at New York, when she came back, the one year she didn't come back, Tony Kubek and I roomed together.
Oh, is that right? Over at
Stadium Motor Lodge.
Yeah. About 8 to 9 blocks away from
Yeah. So we always kept ourselves close enough where we could either walk or it wasn't too far to get to the park.
Were the first couple of years out of ball an adjustment for you? Was it an issue?
Yeah, it really was.
I mean, financially, you were in a business. It wasn't, you were fairly well set with your family and everything.
Right.
And from that standpoint, but did, you get the itch, spring training time, or?
I got the itch, and probably not as much as somebody else maybe in my position might have, and fellows I've talked to, but because when I got out, I really thought I was ready. I'd had it. And but I still, as you say, you're always thinking maybe I shouldn't have.
Right.
And talking about that, the one reason I think I wish I would have stayed one more year was that New York came out and played the Giants in the World Series.
That's right.
And my job would have been secure at New York because when Houck called me in near the end of the year that year in '61 and asked me what my plans were, because they knew
he was taking over next year, right?
Well, he was the manager.
Taking over 60.
He was the manager in '61.
He took over from
Casey.
60, right?
And he said, he says we want you here. And at the time I just told him, I said, Ralph, I think I've had it, and I'm going to get out.
That's very interesting. Yogi wanted you to manage in Richmond. Houck wanted you to be on the team in New York.
Right.
You got out on your own terms.
Right.
Very interesting. I mean, there are a few people out there that, I think Willie just left too late. And it's nice that some things went just right. Because you didn't have the choice to be traded three or four times.
No.
Mm-hmm. And it's also interesting that you picked Northern California as a place to live after seeing the rest of the country.
Yeah, well, I think to me, California is the cream of the crop. That's all right. But my roots are here, so some people do find better spots as they grow up and go somewhere else. But there was no way I would ever wanted to live in the East. My wife would never agree to that. I know because she didn't enjoy it at all.
She didn't come back that second year.
No, she didn't. She didn't enjoy it. I have to be very honest with you. And we have all our family out here, so why would we want to change? And I went into a business with my family, my dad, my son, and my youngest daughter, and we were in business for over 33 years, and we sold it, and we just got out and retired.
I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California. And it's Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. This will be posted somewhere down the line in the next week or so. And I'm happy to be back with you. My guest today is former Philadelphia A, Kansas City A, New York Yankee pitcher, Mr. Art Ditmar.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Ditmar. How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you.
Oh, good. We're on the air. We're talking, going to talk a little baseball today, going to reminisce with one of my boyhood heroes who rode the train from Kansas City to New York and back, Mr. Art Ditmar. Great to talk to you. You're in South Carolina, and I just want to catch up on life after baseball with you a little bit. How'd you get to South Carolina? Was that you're originally from Massachusetts? You retired in South Carolina, I assume.
No, well, I did, but I was working in Ohio for 15 years before I came to South Carolina.
After
but
baseball?
I played minor league baseball in Savannah, which was in Georgia, and we played in South Carolina, so I liked it very much in this area.
Good, and I assume you're happy down there and you wouldn't live anywhere else.
We've been here 25 years.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a long time.
Yes.
All right, what caught my eye when looking at some of your stats and what went on in your career, you won the last winning pitcher of a game for the Philadelphia Athletics.
Correct.
And then went on to Kansas City. And one of my former guests on my show was Joe DeMaestri, and he was the shortstop along those lines.
Right.
Tell me
Great
about
short.
It wasn't Joe a terrific fielding shortstop, and
he was.
He really was, and he's very, very underrated in baseball history. And he was the last shortstop in Philadelphia, and you both went on to Kansas City. And tell me what it was like playing in the Midwest. I mean, New York is New York. What was it like in the Midwest in comparison to playing in New York?
Well, it was less pressure, and I was the top pitcher at Kansas City when I was playing there. So, I mean, when you're in the big leagues, that's the most important thing. And I was getting time in the big leagues as a top pitcher, and so I was very happy playing in Kansas City.
Any experiences that you remember off the top of your head that you look back upon with fondness?
And playing in Kansas City?
Yeah.
Well, no, I just I pitched a lot of good games in Kansas City, and I had a decent record until my second year there when I lost 22 games, but it was because I was pitching so much, and we weren't scoring many runs.
It takes a really good pitcher to be in there enough to lose 22 games. Believe me, ladies.
Well, I was pitching every fourth day, and in fact, one period in Kansas City, I had shut out Detroit, and 2 days later, I started against Detroit again in Kansas City, and and I had a 1-0 lead until the 8th inning, and Al Kaline hit a home run off me with one man out, and I lost 2-1. But I had shut out Detroit 16 innings in a row. So, I mean, I was Kansas City had a good defensive team, and but we just didn't score runs.
You had Vic Power playing first base. I think Vic Power was the best fielding first baseman.
Yes, he is the first baseman.
Right. He was terrific in the field.
Excellent.
Right. You won 2 games in the World Series in New York. You say it was less pressure in Kansas City. Some people could pitch in New York. Some people can't. Obviously, you could. I mean, if you could pitch in the World Series and win in the World Series. What?
Well,
can you give me?
I mean, playing with the Yankees. I mean, I was pitching for an all-star team.
Right.
So I mean, they made the plays and scored the runs. So we needed them.
Yeah.
And they had good closers. So things worked out good in New York.
Right. Tell me about Johnny Cooks. He was my favorite Yankee favorite Yankee pitcher back then.
He was pitched the 7th game of the 56th World Series and shut out Brooklyn, and when the Yankees won the World Series.
Right, in 56, they beat the Dodgers the year after.
Right.
They turned it around. Any Yogi stories? Yogi passed away recently, and the baseball world, irreplaceable, an icon, Americana as we know it. I mean, you pitched to him. What a thrill that had to be.
Well, he was an excellent catcher. In fact, we had 2 or 3 good catchers on the Yankee team at that time, Elson Howard, Johnny Blanchard, and Yogi.
Right.
So I pitched all 3 of them, and they were all good.
Absolutely. What's your favorite memory in baseball? If you had one favorite memory, was it when you were called up? You tell me.
Well, the most favorite memory I have was pitching a game in Washington when I pitched against Camilo Pascual, who was a pretty good right-handed pitcher. And it was a nothing game through, I think, about the 5th inning, and I hit a home run off him. And on the first pitch of the 5th inning, he went ahead 1-0. Then I come up with the bases loaded the next time up, and I singled off him. And so I won the game 4-0. I think I pitched a 2-hitter. But that memory of hitting the home run off a great pitcher like that was great.
Camilo Pascual was terrific pitcher with the Senators.
Great curveball.
Absolutely. It would fall off the table, as they said, right? In those days.
Right.
How about Casey? No, before you talk about Casey, talk about Jim Turner, the pitching coach. Very little in the annals of baseball said about that. He kept together a lot of pitchers. A lot of pitchers went through there in those dynasties. And tell me about your relationship with him and how he taught and how much a difference that he made in the Yankee pitching staff.
Well, he always worked on your best parts of your delivery and the best pitches, and of course the Yankee games were scouted good when we were playing somebody, so you always knew how you had to pitch to certain hitters in certain situations, so not to lose the game. But I think he was a great pitching coach, and I had another pitching coach after him that was excellent, was Eddie Lopat.
Oh, yes.
And so it was great pitching for those great pitchers, and the coaches were all great.
Wonderful. You have a Casey story for us?
Well, other than the fact that I threw a bat at him one time, but no, it was a situation where he took me out of the game and I threw the bat in the dugout and it came close to him. But he took very good care of me. He got all the raises, the good raises I got were a result of him. And so I got along with him very well.
What was it like dealing with George Weiss come contract time?
Well, the Yankees were very difficult to deal with. I mean, they didn't want to give away money. And every time you talk about a good raise, they say, well, you get a World Series check every year, so that's your raise. And I said, well, you would put that in my contract, but he wouldn't do it.
Okay. All right. Art, you're terrific to talk to. I really appreciate you being on. I'm going to give you one thing before you leave, and it's this. I do an imitation of the voice of the Yankees, and I want you to hear this, and you tell me what you think. If you don't like it, we'll block it right out of the tape. All right?
Okay.
Now appearing on Comfortably Zoned Radio, number 28, Art Ditmar, number 28.
That was very good. That's good.
All right. That's all I wanted to hear. It was very good.
Okay.
It was good. All
right.
Nice Thank you, my friend. I really enjoyed your company.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend. See you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Art Ditmar, former Major League pitcher, Philadelphia A's, Kansas City A's, and New York Yankees, and he seemed to enjoy himself. And that's what life is all about. I'm going to end the episode the way I do virtually everyone. I'm going to implore you all to keep your dreams wet and your humor dry. Keep your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting stations at all cost and off the laps of clerics that wear dresses just to be on the safe side. I know 280,000 of them don't ruin the whole bunch, but there have been a lot of reported cases where bad things go on, dear, as Archie Bunker would say. So take care of yourself, keep on keeping on, and catch you on the flip side. Adios, amigos and amigas.